we're giving you the first alert because of this confirmed tornado warning. This is currently live over Georgetown and Williamsburg County. So Jamestown, that's where the tornado will be moving just north of the area. But this is a time to take shelter now, get into your safe place. That's the lowest level of your home and the most interior part of your home as well. And of course, we can time this out as well. So the track generally going to be to the east, and this storm is moving really fast at 30 miles per hour. We're going to be seeing this cross between Andrews and Jamestown, following the 17 alt route as you make your way towards Georgetown. So if you're over in Georgetown as well, parts of Pawleys Island, this is a storm to especially watch out for as you move for the next half hour. But for now, the big threat, of course, is that confirmed tornado that we have east of St. Stephen, over crossing away from Berkeley County and moving into parts of southern Williamsburg County, especially near Jamestown, and as you make your way towards Andrews. So, of course, we're going to give you the first alert here. Myself, meteorologist Stephanie Sign, coming up. We do have a confirmed tornado. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is for Georgetown and Williamsburg counties, and this expires at 7:30. So we still have a lot of time with this, about 15 minutes. So if you're just tuning in, of course, this is the time to get into your safe place. Remember, that's the most interior part of your home and away from windows and walls. So, and if you're on the roads as well, it's the time to get off the roads and make sure that you're not in the way of this tornado. This will be passing once again between Jamestown and Andrews. But if you're in the city of Jamestown, we do see a little bit of nudging that's going on with this storm especially. So make sure that you're being precautious about this and taking all of the necessary steps to be careful from this storm. Now we can take a look at velocity as well to show you where the rotation is. And this is in an area where it's not heavily populated, but still in between, just moving to the east of St. Stephen. Of course, where the greens meet the reds, that's where you have your biggest areas of rotation. And this will be moving generally in the Alvin area now, moving to the east, south of Sutton's, and eventually making its way in between Jamestown and, as I mentioned earlier, Andrews. Now, the neighborhood of Osita and Lambert, they're areas where you're going to have that rotation as well, moving towards the east. But right now, of course, that damaging tornado threat is the risk, of course, especially just north of Jamestown. Now, let's see if there's any tornadic damage that we're seeing on correlation coefficient. This just shows how much debris is being lofted up in the air, and we're not really seeing good indications of that right now. Maybe a little bit as you made your way towards St. Stephen earlier, but now we're starting to see that area of rotation, making your way closer towards Jamestown, crossing Route 41 and making its way towards the 17 alt route, especially as you're making your way eastward back over towards the city of Georgetown and into Georgetown County. So if you're in any of those areas, as I mentioned, now's the time to start taking precautions and make your way into your safe space now. Now, this storm is moving to the east and generally southeast at 25 miles per hour. So we can get you your tracker and show you exactly when you can expect these storms. Let's see. So once again, this is moving to the east and the east-southeast especially, and we're expecting this to arrive near Singletary Forks around 7:17, Osita around 7:25, and eventually, like I mentioned, places farther to the east along Route 17 can get this storm between 7:45 and the 8 o'clock hour. Now I'll zoom in once again to show that velocity couplet for you guys who are just tuning in. This is generally moving east to east-southeast right now in Alvin. So if you're in that neighborhood, make sure that you're taking shelter now, especially for places closer to Jamestown and Osita. We're going to be seeing that rotation arrive in your area really in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So it's a very quickly approaching storm. Conditions have rapidly depleted. So this is why we're giving you the first alert here on Live 5 News and giving you ample time to take shelter from this storm. Once again,
right, Dorian. Yeah. You go ahead and get that ready. We'll talk more about this. This kind of popping up almost out of nowhere. We weren't even under a severe weather threat today, but here we are. And once again, this cell was actually confirmed by law enforcement, believe it or not. So we continue to track this evening as it moves through the area. Once again, this is for a small portion of Berkeley. Did we see this expire as we move into Williamsburg, or is it still for Williamsburg? Williamsburg. Do you see that?
Still for lower Williamsburg.
Okay, still for lower Williamsburg. And you can see on the screen exactly our track right now, where the storm system is going. Once again, this was actually confirmed by law enforcement. So typically sometimes when we see these warnings pop up, they're only confirmed on the radar. But this one actually seen out there, which is why we have that warning kind of popping up. And, we had ingredients for some decent storms. But yes, you can see here, once again, as of 7 p.m., it was crossing over Russellville Road and Broadcast Lane. So if you're in that area or really due east of that, you can see right now where we're tracking that on your screen. The cone, that's where you definitely want to get to your safe space, really get to the most inner portion of your home if you can, even lower floor if you have one, a room with no windows. And we continue to track this evening here, as you can see. As you can see here this evening, yes, we continue to track this. And Dorian, if you are going to take the wall, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, I will walk you through it here as we kind of continue to track this system. Like I mentioned earlier, this one almost out of nowhere. We definitely weren't under much of a tornado threat today, but you know how it is, summertime storms, Dorian, stuff can just really go wild out there. Once again, a confirmed tornado. This was located near Jamestown. That's about 14 miles northwest of McClellanville, moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. And once again, this is confirmed by law enforcement. Dangerous tornado. That means flying debris, dangerous to really anyone without shelter, especially those mobile homes, really flying debris, the main issue there. So do keep this in mind if you're out really in the path of this system, Dorian.
And something else to mention too, just looking at radar, over the last 5-10 minutes, if you can take it to velocity, please, because we do see a little bit more hooking, at least on radar. So this, of course, shows the heavy rain, but we also have that velocity, and that's why we have that tornado threat to begin with. So while we're starting to see these winds, the velocity coming inbound and outbound, that indicates rotation. We're not really seeing that in terms of velocity as much anymore, but the radar indication does show that we had a little bit better of a hooking, especially in the last 5 to 10 minutes as this storm was making its way to the east from St. Stephen towards the Jamestown area. Of course, that's where that tornado was previously confirmed, but now we're starting to see that start to weaken a little bit. But remember, there's still the risk for a tornado. We have that tornado warning in effect for until 7:30 in the evening for Georgetown and Williamsburg County. This will still be passing generally to the north of downtown Jamestown, but still anywhere near the Santee, anywhere moving northwards towards Andrews along Route 41. That's where we have the greatest threat right now for that tornado and some heavy rainfall as well. But most importantly and most notably is that tornado threat. So if you're anywhere in these areas, anywhere within the cone, of course, that's where we're going to have the best threat for a tornado. And that's where we're telling you, giving you the first alert here on Live 5 News to take shelter and head away from windows, make sure that you're indoors in your safest part of the town. So looking at the timing for this storm, 7:34 is when it will be arriving in Singletary Forks, 7:41 in Osceola, 7:50 in Lambert, and then making its way a little bit farther to the east into Georgetown counties. That will be closer to the 8 o'clock hour. So you have ample time to start changing your plans and making your ways indoors, because these conditions, like Stephanie said, they are ramping up and really different than what we saw at all today with that increasing cloud cover. This is a damaging confirmed tornado for these areas and localities, especially as it makes its way eastward into Jamestown and along the 41 corridor.
Right, yeah, Dorian, like you mentioned, still tracking this. And once again, this is a law enforcement confirmed tornado, which is probably one reason why the National Weather Service put up this warning across this area, or else we wouldn't have seen it. Didn't see it on the radar that much. Typically, we have more of a bit of a definition on the radar whenever we track these severe events. And once again, today, yes, we had the slight chance of maybe a few spotty, strong to severe storms, but this tornado definitely almost coming out of nowhere. We'll see if they drop this warning sometime soon, but as of right now, once again, like Dorian mentioned, these spots that you can see here with your cone into parts of Williamsburg County there, that's where you want to get inside, get in your safe space, go to a room with no windows. Sometimes for most people, that's the bathroom, the bathtub. Lay down in the bathtub. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that is a safe space for you just in case this might come over your home, especially those in mobile homes, really weak structures out there. Stay away from windows. Tree damage also likely. If this is already a confirmed tornado, which that's what we're getting from the National Weather Service, that does mean that there's definitely a little bit of damage out there. So I'm sure they'll be out and about tomorrow really assessing the damage, just monitoring and seeing what is left behind from this. So it would be interesting to see what exactly is going on the ground. However, if you are in this, stay inside. Once again, stick with us here at Live 5. We continue to track this, jumping in on air, kind of interrupting your programming, but of course, just to keep you safe.
Right, absolutely. And we're still waiting to hear on social media, seeing these tornado reports. And of course, we're going to give you updates as we hear them minute by minute. But once again, we still have that risk for a damaging tornado, confirmed tornado, once again by law enforcement for these areas, especially as it makes its way across Route 41 near the Jamestown area, especially as we go into the next 5 to 10 minutes. So once again, if you're just tuning in with us here in Jamestown, make sure that you're in your safe place now. That tornado warrant storm will be moving across the area within the next 5 to 10 minutes, eventually making its way near Osita and following the 17 alt route towards Lambert, Lodge Hall, and cities within that area. Once again, the storm is moving to the east at about 25 miles per hour, so you do have a little bit more time to make your way indoors. If you're along Route 41 in the Jamestown area, just east of the Alvin neighborhood, which just saw that tornado, or at least the rotation, that is, we will be watching that for you, and make sure that you're in your safe place, as Stephanie just mentioned. That's the most interior part of your home, like a bathroom or really anywhere without windows.
Right, Dorian. Yeah, it does look like a little bit like you mentioned, like it is weakening, at least by our radar. What we're looking at here, going to bring up velocity and see what we can see here. I don't know about you, Dorian, but I don't see a ton of action here, at least in terms of that rotating. When we show velocity, it's actually wind direction that we're watching toward and away. That means really wind, those strong winds, they have two ways to go, towards and away, and that creates that upward momentum of tornadic activity. So I'm not seeing a ton of that right now. What do you think, Dorian?
Right, it's really not. And this is significantly weakened as we move through the last, say, couple of frames at least. This is our general broad area of rotation. And usually with the higher values, we would start to see higher wind speeds. We're seeing these really start to weaken as we move through the last few minutes. And I don't know if we still have that tornado warning according to this.
We do actually, right. We're kind of waiting for the National Weather Service to pull the trigger on this, because it does look like it's really weakened. And Dorian, if we go back to when this was initiated, probably when the law enforcement officer saw the rotation on the ground, you can see the green and the red there. You can really see, if you want to point out there on the screen, possibly where that touchdown could have been.
Right, near the St. Stephen's area. So.
Right. St. Stephen's there. So you can see as we move forward in time, this is current time, things have really flattened out a bit, which is good news. And also these storms, these tornadoes, they can also be rain wrapped. Obviously, if someone saw a system, maybe not necessarily rain wrapped, but definitely something to keep an eye on this time of the year. You know how severe weather is here in the low country, and especially with all of the heat, Dorian, that we've felt today and the humidity out there. You know, we had ingredients, and also I know you and I have talked about this before, but interaction with the lake. You know, things happen out there. If you've been out on Lake Marion, you know it is really a beast of its own. Sometimes we see very severe weather just pop up over the lake. So maybe even seeing some energy right off the water. And then once it touched land, you can see how it falls apart pretty quickly with this velocity map, Dorian.
Right, and absolutely. And we saw these types of storms at least last night and the night before, and that's why we had a lot of lightning with this. We're not seeing as much lightning right now, but of course, when you have that interaction between the land and these lakes, you can start to induce a little bit of rotation across the area, and that's why we have the confirmed tornado, especially as it made its way past St. Stephen and now over the Route 41 corridor. So once again, this is now about to across Route 41, just north of Jamestown, downtown at least. But if you're in any parts of southern Williamsburg County and even into southwestern Georgetown counties, we still have the risk for a tornado as we move for the next 15 to 20 minutes at least. Of course, interest there in Georgetown counties. So be watching the storm especially because there's still a lot of real estate to get to before it makes its way off of the coast. But right now, the immediate threat being for Jamestown, just south of Andrews, of course. Part of this town of Andrews is in that tornado warning, but we will be watching the main rotation, of course, being south of there. But there's still a lot of heavy rainfall, mainly to the south of Andrews. And as you make your way south on the 41, of course, that's where we have the greatest and most elevated threat for tornadoes. Heavy rain. We're not watching the risk for hail. That rotation, of course, being near the Singletary Farms Forks area, near Osita, and eventually that will be making its way a little bit farther to the east along 17 route. So if you're taking your way generally between Jamestown and Georgetown, it's a good time to take precautions now, pull over on the side of the road and just ride the storm out. But we're not seeing as widespread of rotation. That tornado warning is still there. So when there's the tornado warning still there, the threat is also there for a tornado to occur and even to regenerate. So even if this tornado warning it does not induce that there's a tornado on the ground right now, we're still watching the rotation, and this could still redevelop, especially as it makes its way across Williamsburg and Georgetown counties.
Right, Dorian. Yeah, we mentioned we didn't even see hail today within any storm system. And actually, we have some great news from the National Weather Service this morning. Has expired. We're going to hang with it for just a moment to see if this is extended. I don't believe it's going to be. But of course, as always, thanks for tuning in with us. Thanks for staying safe, of course, throughout the evening. We'll continue to monitor these storms. And of course, as always, join us live on air at Live 5 News online and on our weather app. Stay safe.